welcome everyone. I've got 15 minutes to talk to you, but the first thing I want to do is talk to you about your relationship with Uber. So can you all stand up, please, and get your phones out? To this, trust me. So what I want you to do is open your Uber. I've got it. I presume most people. Then we're going to say something about this because I think it's really interesting about relationship with a brand in a different way. So, people in their audience, but they probably will, and they anyway, because you don't. If you work at Uber, you don't get better ratings. Just to know. Right. So if you've got a rating of 4.5 or I'll come to that. 4.55. It's a range between 4.55. Anyone? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. 4.55 to 4.6. Sit down, please. 4.6 to 4.65. Oh, more going down. 4.65 to 4.7. Oh, 4.7 to 4.75. 4.75 to 4.8. Oh, 4.8 to 4.85. Right. The people standing up, please email me and I will send you a new gift. Thank you for being great customers.
The mic's not working. Is that all right?
Is that working? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. My screen's not working either. Anyway, just to give you an idea, my rating's 4.71, so you can, it just goes to show that working at Uber doesn't make a difference to what you do on ratings. But it is interesting because obviously a lot of you have used Uber in your time and you've probably engaged with us in a lot of ways, but particularly what we talk about, sort of like key moments where you're going to a gig or you're going to the airport or whatever. So what we want to do is just talk you through how we think about, firstly, our very new business advertising, and how we think about consumer moments. There's nothing on the screen. I can't talk about it because I've got a screen, but I will talk through it anyway. So one of the things we want to talk about is this idea of moments in mobility, because most mobility advertising for a long time has been actually quite limited. We sort of know that people are somewhere, and we can geolocate them, but we don't really know why they're there. And one of the beauties of working with what we have in terms of data, and we have some very interesting data sets, as you might expect, is we know that people have an intent when they're in an Uber. They're going somewhere, they're going to do something. And that helps us when we talk about our advertising business and how our advertising business wraps around that. Now, a few facts about Uber that you may not realize. We have 150 million monthly users now, and that's grown significantly since the pandemic. We do 313 rides a second, which is quite a lot of rides if you think about it. And that crosses, obviously, the Uber Eats business and the Uber Rides business. And now I've got a screen. So there you go. So we're obviously in a very interesting space, and that audience is very engaged with us, as you can see, because of this group here. And they're做 the app on a regular basis, both for deliveries to their houses or to their homes, or taking people somewhere. So that's where we are. We sit in this wonderful moment for people in between getting you somewhere, going some places, and we call it, so this is the context of mobility. And one of the things we thought about, we built this advertising business, and our business for Uber is only about 18 months old. And when we thought about it, we were thinking, well, what can we offer both from a consumer point of view, but also from a brand perspective? Because it's got to work both ways. We are not an advertising business, we're not an MFA site, or we're none of the things we talked about earlier. We're an innovative business that has done a lot of work in the last 10 years to grow in different ways. So we thought, well, we have this wonderful thing, which is 150 logged in users. We have a lot of attention. If you think about the way you use your Uber app, you're looking at the screen, you're engaged with the screen. And that's very powerful. We're not an ad business as well, so we don't really have lots of interruptions to your experience. The surfaces are designed for brand safety by default because that's a key part of what we offer a consumer. And we think we're a premium environment as well. So when we think about our business, that's what we set up to do. And when we think about mobility, we were like, okay, well, where's this mobility thing take us? And what opportunities does that present advertisers in this world of complexity and challenges and misinformation and all the other stuff? So what I've done here today is just looked at one category. Now, we have lots of categories on our data set. I can tell you how many people we dropped off at Soho House last night if you want me to tell you that. Some of you may not want to know that data. No one's ever asked us to target that data yet. I think it's quite interesting, particularly if you start doing day part targeting on that. It's quite fun. Thursday nights, Friday mornings in particular. But we have that sort of data. We also have data on how many people we took to a restaurant yesterday or how many people bought lattes from McDonald's yesterday on our platform. So there's a lot of data sets that are coming in consistently. First-party data, transactional data, all of which allows us to create an understanding of a user in their moment. And the moment is the important thing, where they're going, what they're doing, what their intent is at that stage. And I'm going to focus predominantly on what we do in our ride side of the business, but we can equally talk about what we do in our eats business if you want to chat later. So airports, airport trips. How many people have not done an airport trip in Uber? There you go, pretty low number, that's 0. Airports are #1 ride category in the UK. So that's our biggest category. The UK is one of our biggest markets globally. So it's the #1 category, and we increasingly engaged with those airports in terms of making sure that Uber experience is very strong, and you'll see that at Heathrow and various other places we operate. 20%, and then we can see a surge of around 25% in particular days and months and weeks. So there's a lot of travellers there. The other thing is the airport rides are generally a bit longer. So the average Uber ride's about 22 to 25 minutes. Airport rides can probably add something to that because as you probably understand that people are going from probably longer distances to get to the destinations. So when we think about it, we could also look at some data that we've collected across our users, our personas as we call them. So we have here a frequent traveller. And this is all data we picked up from Uber. So we know when they take rides. If they're a frequent traveller, they're travelling a lot between 3 and 7 a.m., which probably makes sense because they're probably going to the airport early for an early flight, and between 5 and 8 p.m. It also may be an indication that they're looking for best value in the flights or whatever. They also have order times for eats, weekday, afternoon, late night. They also have a premium to they also index to certain rides. Now we have 10 different ride types in the UK, from Uber Pets, for those of you who got pets, which allows you to take your pets with you, to Premium, to Green, which is our electric fleet, and everything else. So that can also give an indication of what the consumer is about. Really interesting. And then you can see their favourite restaurants, so Sticks and Sushi Shop, and those things. Top eats merchants, McDonald's, KFC, Sainsbury's, Waitrose. Favourite places. Top rides categories, so where do they go to? And obviously if they're heavy travellers, they're obviously going around quite a lot using Uber. And then also top eats orders and top events types. So all this data we've collected around these people, but it's valuable data that we can use to target people in those moments. And this is just one of the many different personas we have across our audiences. But then, if you think about it, there's also other things about travel. If you think about drop-offs, going to an airport is one thing, but actually coming from an airport to London, to the centre of London, or whatever, is also very powerful. So that you can actually infer different types of consumer behaviour depending on which way they're going. If they're going to an airport, I'll show you some examples. If they're coming from an airport to London, we've had various examples of people targeting tourists in London, where we can actually pick them up at Heathrow and say, welcome to London, and the creative, and then they can engage from there on. And you could also see things like luxury travellers, people who've come from the US or the Middle East, who are travelling and want to hang around in Knightsbridge or whatever and do shopping in there. And then you can also see business people through connection hubs, so they're coming into London and maybe going on to Eurostar and beyond. So there's a load of data that we can link together to try and understand these moments and how these moments work for consumers. But when we think about our business, one of the things we always say to clients is that there are 3 things you need to look at. One is the context of that trip. So when you're looking at creative messaging, make sure the context is relevant. Make sure you understand the consumer is going somewhere. Because if you don't recognize that, they're not going to engage as heavily. Secondly, creative is really important, and I'll explain why in a minute, because the execution on creative is very powerful. And the other thing is, can you create a consumer benefit? And I've got 3 examples here of how we've done this with advertisers. So this is L'Oreal, some work we did with L'Oreal with Giorgio Armani. And this is very interesting because the context is there, the creative's there as well. The creative stands out because it's read on a black and white image, which is good and always stands out. And this is what we call journey ads. So there are 3 sections to a journey ad. Dispatch screen, which is when you're waiting for your Uber. En route, when you're actually in, the car's coming to pick you up. And on trip, when you're in the car yourself. And those 3 units are all owned by the same advertiser. So you have the ownership of that journey. And what you can see here, if you can't read down here, it's quite small. It says stop by Heathrow corner for a free perfume. So there's a consumer benefit as well as strong creative and consumer benefit. We've also put the Gatwick version here as well. Not that you'd run the Gatwick one and the Heathrow one at the same time, but just to demonstrate you can have different creative for different destinations. Really powerful. That worked really well. So that was a free gift. This is another one we did with Dior, which is much more stylistic and very luxury looking. Again, they were sort of promoting a particular area, so you could discover more. So there was a benefit there, but it wasn't a financial benefit. Now that's great, luxury brands. But then looking beyond this, we also did some work with Boots. And this was around targeting people who are going on holidays or were on holiday. And obviously, most of you probably know Boots have a presence in a lot of the airports and travel places across the UK. So we did targeting to those audiences. And we also did targeting at Brighton and on the South Coast. And the principle here was to promote their summer products, which are Sultan and the antihistamine product, which you can see here. And similar principles, dispatch, en route, on trip. Now, why is this so effective? Because this is the only advertiser in the unit. You're engaged with the app. We're getting, on the Boots example, we had 150 seconds engagement on the advertising itself. Now, many of you buy digital media. You are lucky if you get 1 second engagement with a user. 150 seconds is amazing. We've actually got higher levels at the moment on a lot of campaigns we're running. The swipe rate, which is on the first screen, was around 6%, so 5.63%, and the click rate 2.78%. So this one had great creative, it had context, it had all the things that were needed to make it work, and we think it was very powerful. But even more powerful is, he says, the fact that we did a brand lift study on it as well. And the brand lift study told us that all the key metrics you'd expect suddenly became much more enhanced because of the activity they run on Uber, because it's a clean environment. 6% increase in top-of-mind awareness, 6% increase in unaided brand awareness, and 6% increase in brand favorability, because you're not competing with a lot of other people, but you're also providing a moment, an advertising moment, that matches the moment with the consumer. And we feel this is a pretty interesting space, particularly at this time of world where we're talking about attention and the importance of attention. So that's our short little presentation about what we do. We think there's a good opportunity around mobility advertising to really focus on people in the moment, moving places, rather than just focusing on the location they may be, because we at least understand what their intent is. If they're going to a music festival, if they're going to travel, if they're going to a restaurant or a bar, and we've got loads of examples of that. And we also think that with a lot of what we do, we're linked very much into the culture of people's lives, because people go places and get things which are all linked to their culture and their interest in culture. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. Thank you for participating in our little game. For those people who've won, great. For those of you who didn't, thanks for being great Uber customers anyway. There are a few tips we can probably tell you about how to increase your Uber score, but we'll leave that for another time. Much appreciated. Thank you.